everyone. I'm Millie Naylor Hast, and this is Authors on the Air. And today I have with me a very special guest, Taylor Moore. And Taylor is the author of a new book, Firestorm, which just came out in August. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you're with us today. Tell
Good to
us
be here.
about, tell us, well, I have to tell you first that Firestorm kept me on the edge of my seat. Um, it's
Good.
a really good story, but tell our listeners about it.
Yeah, so Firestorm is the follow-up to Down Range. So anybody who's read that will know that it's a series. It's the Garrett Kohl series about a former Special Forces guy turned DEA who is just trying to get back home to Texas, just have a normal life. And as I always joke, I say, unfortunately for poor Garrett, he's not going to have a normal life because that puts me out of a job, right?
Right.
And so,
He's never
so
going to
this
have a normal life.
he's never gonna not have some problems. And so anyhow, so Firestorm is a follow up to Downrange, and I leave a few things hanging in Downrange. I tie up most things, but I left what I left was the fact that a vicious cartel had come after his family in Downrange, and while he took care of the immediate problem, the head of the snake still exists. And so the book starts out with him going down to the border with Mexico and taking on the leader of the Garza cartel, Emilio Garza. And so the book sort of starts out there, and then he sort of takes care of those problems, comes back home, ready to again to have this normal life, and finds that there's a group there, an energy company that he immediately suspects is an oil company, and it turns out to be a mining company that's looking for rare earth minerals. And while he hopes this will only be sort of a nuisance, he soon learns that this company is going to basically destroy his ranch, the land that he's come back to, the land that he loves, the land that's going to be their livelihood. And he pushes back a little, and they push back a lot harder. And the more he sort of investigates and starts looking into this thing, this company has nefarious ties all over the world, and basically they're bad news. And I'll kind of leave it at there. Leave it there. This is kind of the very beginning of the book. And if anybody is like me, coming into a book or a movie or whatever, I don't want to know anything. If you can kind of give me a little teaser, and then it just launches in from there. So that's where we are in Firestorm.
Let it unfold as it goes from there.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I love about thrillers, and that I especially loved about this book, is we have all the action and adventure. I love the adrenaline, get the adrenaline going and find out what's going to happen next. That's really fun. But I also like to learn something. And I think the best thrillers teach you about something. And this book teaches you a bit about rare earth mining, which I had no idea. I know we need lithium for batteries, and cobalt is used in technology and a few other things, but I had no idea how destructive it was. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the rare earth things. In fact, I was on a radio interview earlier, and the person asked me, said, "How?" I'm former CIA and former military intelligence, and so people are always kind of looking at me, and kind of you write these things about 2 years in advance, and now all of a sudden we're talking about rare earth minerals. And I said, well, very naturally, we're talking about them because China, depending on the statistics you look, China holds about 80% of those on the planet, and it has the refining capacity and all that we don't have. Well, there's a lot of things that we want, whether it's your computers, if it's electric cars, it's all these things that we need. And if you read the book, you'll find out a lot of our high tech military stuff depends on rare earth minerals. And the mining process, yeah, as you mentioned, it can be, there's different companies doing it different ways, but it can be very destructive to the land. And so that's one element, but it's also strategically very important for our country. So we're talking about this. This is in the news all the time right now. So it just kind of hit it's very timely, I guess I would say, that we're all talking about it because we need them desperately.
Yeah,
And
it's exceptionally timely. Do we have a store of rare earth minerals in the United States that just haven't been explored yet? I mean, that's sort of what you hint at a little bit, because they're coming to Garrett Kohl's ranch and basically digging a big hole in the ground.
it's an interesting process that we're in, and yes, we do have them here. I think the biggest deposit is in California that's being mined, but now we're starting to look in other places, El Paso, I think somewhere in the Midwest. But it's kind of like oil and gas. It's like any of these other things. Until you really start getting in there and really digging and finding them, to find them in they're these rare earths, they're everywhere, but to find them in the sort of I guess the level of where we want to make them what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, they're everywhere, but to find them concentrated in one spot is very difficult. And
It's
so
hard.
that's
Yeah.
the idea, is to find this. And so right now they're in developing countries all over the world, um but yeah, they're hard to sort of get them out and have them refined is a very difficult process, and we're kind of behind in that, and we're finally playing catch up.
So Garrett finds his family ranch in jeopardy.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah. So basically, he's dealt with the oil and gas thing for years, and that's just been in part of our lives. We're here in Texas, and that's just part of it. Never did expect that he would have to contend with mining now, but that's the next thing that's happening, and that's what he's having to deal with.
Well, now you have a CIA agent in the book too, Kim,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she has a special role to play. Tell us about her.
Yeah, so Kim's fun. So if you've read Downrange, you'll remember she has, she's a big part of it, but I wasn't in her point of view in that book, and I'd leap into her point of view in book two. And so while Garrett is sort of seeing things on the ground and recognize that something's not right, that these people are just way too heavy-handed and pushing them around in a not so normal way, Kim is investigating, and she's using her skills as a CIA intelligence officer to tap into her resources and talk to the people that she needs to talk to figure out who's really behind this. And the more she digs, the deeper she digs, the scarier it gets. And so again, I won't give too much, but yeah, these series that I'm working on is kind of an unusual series in that it's sort of a neo-western, a modern western mixed with a spy thriller, and somehow these things manage to come together, and they legitimately do. And if you read the book, you'll, yeah, for readers, they'll see what I'm talking about.
As a fellow Texan, I can relate.
Yeah, then you absolutely know.
Yeah. Um, Another really interesting character is Asadi. Tell us
Hmm.
about him.
Yeah, Saudi is so for those again who have read Downrange will remember he's an immigrant from Afghanistan. He Garrett initially brings him to Texas on a protective custody assignment, and Garrett and Asadi just he's an orphan. Unfortunately, his family is killed over in Afghanistan by the Taliban, and so he's a kid who's going through the healing process, and so Garrett in book two is wanting to adopt him and wanting to make him part of the family. And Asadi, although born and raised in the Hindu Kush, just a young kid of 10, 12, and I'm having to remember, I'm writing book four now, so I'm trying to remember where he is in book two. But he's a kid that just takes to Texas, just jumps in with both feet and loves ranch life, loves horses, and loves loves being a cowboy, basically. So it's a fun story because it's, as I always like to say, it doesn't, you don't have to be born in Texas to be a cowboy. A lot of people come here and just fit right in, and that
Well,
life suits them, and
you
he's
know
one of
the
them.
saying, I may not have been born in Texas, but I got here as fast as I could. You've probably heard
Yep.
that.
I've heard it, and I've seen the bumper stickers, and I love it. I love that expression. A lot of people feel that way. I talk to people all the time that, in fact, one of my writer friends the other day, I asked him, he lives in Dallas. I said, were you from here? He goes, no, we moved here for a job, and we're staying. We love it.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
anyhow, so that's just how it is. But that's society in a nutshell. Yeah, he got here as quick as he could, I guess.
Now, you grew up on a ranch outside Houston. Tell
Mhm.
us, how did you become a writer? You became a CIA agent, but then how did you become a writer? How did point A lead to point B?
Yeah, writing is just something that I've always loved. I, was a journalism major in undergrad, and a little bit different than fiction, but I like to write, and I wrote my first book in the year 2000, and it was kind of a bucket list kind of thing. I just did it to see if I could do it, and it stayed on my laptop, and to this day I've never done anything with it. But I, throughout my life I'd write here, write there, and then when I was up here living in the Texas Panhandle, I got more serious about it. I had I was working in the oil and gas industry, and there's a guy named John R. Erickson who writes the Hank the Cowdog series. And
Mhm.
the first couple of wells that I drilled when I was working in oil and gas were out on his ranch. And I told him I was a writer, and he said, "What are you writing?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "We better get busy. If you call yourself a writer." I was like, I guess I better. And so I did. And so I just started writing for fun again. And then one thing led to another. And here I am, a published author doing this for a living.
So, how did you well, you said you majored in journalism, but that's a lot different than writing fiction. How
Hmm.
did you make that transition, or did you go to school to study it, go to conferences, go to workshops? How did you learn the art of dramatization?
It's funny, it's a great question, and I literally somebody asked me this yesterday, and I said I've been through a painful writing journey. I said I started out as a journalism major, and I went on to graduate school, and the first paper that I turned in, I got a C on, and I went to talk to the professor, and he said, "What was your major in undergrad?" And I said, "Journalism." He goes, "This reeks of a journalism paper." So I had to rewrite in an academic way. Then I went to the CIA and had to rewrite in the way that they teach you. And I had to went to then worked with the military and had to rewrite in the military way. And so when I started writing fiction, it wasn't very good. I'll be honest. I went to a kind of a critique group that was more of a social one, and oh, I had all this long prose that just and so it is you get people to help you, and I just learned by doing, and people could helping me and getting in critique, and that's how I got good. And then really when I got sort of recognized, there's two New York Times bestselling romance writers here in Amarillo where I live, and they
Wow,
brought me into their critique group, and they
great.
took my writing, which was pretty good. It was good enough to sort of be recognized, and they said, "Let's take you to the next level," and they did. Yeah,
That's that's excellent. I wish
yeah,
we had more time. I bet we could talk all day.
yeah.
But you said you're working on book 4 now. So
Hmm.
my next question is, now we've just read book 2, so what
Yeah,
comes next? Tell
yeah.
us
So
what's
yeah,
next
so
for us to expect and look forward to.
yeah, so book three is going to be fun. I just turned that into my editor, and so I'm expecting edits back anytime. And I'm not wasting time. I'm already launching to book four because once we got now that we have the series going, we kind of know where it's going, so I can keep
Yeah.
going. So book three is going to be more. Garrett is just trying to get back to the ranch and have a normal life, and so book three is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be high octane, just like the other ones. It's going to have a nuclear element for those around the Texas Panhandle. They've heard of Pantex, and so in the United States, there's one facility that assembles and disassembles nuclear weapons, and it's Pantex, and it's right here, smack dab where we live, and so
Oh,
there's a lot of security and a lot of weird stuff that goes on around here that people don't know about, and we have special operations guys that come here, and they're the ones that help transport that stuff because it's the most dangerous weapons on the planet that we have right here, and so there's going to be an element to that, so that's the little teaser for book three. So it's going to be fun, and
well, I can't
yeah,
wait to read that.
yeah.
That's right up my alley, and I bet it will be for a lot of other readers too. It's really been a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for being with us today. Where can our readers find you online?
Yeah, TaylorMooreBooks.com. Check it out. And all my social media is attached there, and the books and descriptions and everything. But yeah, get on my mailing list or follow me on social media, and you can find out what's happening next.
Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to it, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
This has been Authors on the Air. I'm Millie Hast talking with Taylor Moore. Please look for us next time on Authors on the Air. Thank you.